Hello and welcome to another video. I'm Maz and today I'm in Gloucester. And in today's video I'll be trying out this BMW 4 Series. This car was kindly lent to me by my friend Brett, and if you are a BMW owner or any car of this caliber and you'd like your car featured on this channel, feel free to reach out. A quick overview: the BMW 4 Series was launched in 2013, replacing the coupe and convertible 3 Series. Interestingly, the 4 Series name was meant to come out for the E92 and E93 3 Series, as they've actually dropped the C in 330 Ci, as well as having 2 separate chassis, 4 if you include their variants, so E90, E91, E92 and E93. Plus, the exterior styling for the 4-door and the 2-door were noticeably different. But officially, this is the first generation 4 Series, which ran from 2013 to 2020. Obviously, being a 4 Series, its M counterpart was then renamed the M4, with the M3 name only being used on the saloon. There was no touring version of the F chassis M3, but a touring variant did eventually come in the G chassis. And me personally, I much prefer the way this one looks over its successor, the G22, with its questionable front end. And being a pre-facelift, this car has the iconic BMW rings. There is also a cabriolet version called the F33, which has a metal folding roof. And there's a 4-door variant with a, well, 5-door since it has a tailgate, called the Grand Coupe, which actually made its way on the 6 Series first and then trickled down to this 4 Series as well. And eventually this car was replaced in 2020 by the G22. And this is not just a 4 Series, but it's also a 435i, which uses the N55 straight 6, which was then replaced by the B58 found in the 440i facelift. So coming to the front, this is what the F32 looks like from the front. Very similar to its F30 saloon counterpart, just a little bit wider. Being the M Sport, you also get this very nice kit. Here's what the key looks like. Very similar to what BMW have been using ever since 2004. So you got your lock and your boot, with the emblem being the lock button. And if I were to press the unlock button, the DRLs illuminate, and then just press the emblem to lock. And as I've mentioned in the E30 video, I'm not a fan of modern BMW kidneys. They look very disproportionate, and I've mentioned on the E30 that it has a perfect proportion of headlight and grille. Fortunately, the same can be said with this generation. And this particular car has fog lights. If you were to get an M4, this would all be intake. Coming to the side, looks very classically correct, and I also like how the shadow from the shoulder line extends very far down. Being the M Sport, you get the M badge as well as this vent. This particular car has the blue brake calipers and the larger M Sport wheels in diamond cut. This particular car has the sunroof. If it didn't have the sunroof, BMW would call it a slick top. Again, you got the Hofmeister kink here, which has been dropped on the 2nd generation 4 Series. And I've mentioned that it's wider than the 3 Series. Excluding the mirrors, this is actually the widest point of the car. And you still get a shark fin on the roof. Coming to the back, styling wise, it has lots of BMW design, including the L-shaped tail lights, which could trace its roots back to the E32, as well as the more recent E46. Again, there is your 435i badge. This particular car has the reversing camera, and because it's a 435, you get dual exhausts, one on each side. If this were to be a 420, you'd just get the one tip on the left, and the 430s will have both tips on the left. Coming to the back now, one thing I forgot to mention, you can also get a lip spoiler on the M Sport, but this particular one doesn't have that. Coming to the boot, opens on the fob. Despite being a saloon opening, you do get a very generous boot, and if you do want a tailgate, you can always get the 3GT or the 4GC. This is how much space you get, and if you want, you can fold the seats back from here. There's your obligatory toolkit, though you don't get as much on the newer ones. You can also tie down storage on this net, and you get a power outlet right here. If you want, there's more space underneath the boot floor as well. And because BMW is German, the mandatory warning triangle is here. And to close the boot, you just pull on this handle right here. Interestingly, you get a massive fuel door on these BMWs. And if I open it, you can sort of see something that would have been here. This here would have been your AdBlue space for diesel models. Coming inside, this 4 Series uses normal door handles. If you were to get an E46 from a certain period, the door handle will actually go upwards. Being the coupe, it has frameless windows. It's even got the upgraded Harman Kardon sound system, though strangely in the 7 Series they use Bowers & Wilkins. And here's what the dash looks like. Exactly the same as you'd get in a 3 Series, as after all this is a 3 Series but coupe form. This particular car has this individual color combination which looks like chocolate brown, which I actually like the look of. And yes, there is the individual emblem here. And this particular car even has memory seats. And luckily in right-hand drive models the bonnet releaser is on the correct side, but in a BMW or a modern BMW you pull it twice, so that way you don't have to find the second latch under the bonnet. And again, here are what the pedals look like, exactly like the ones they've been using since the 80s. And here is your little OBD2 port. And being a ZF8 speed, you get the wide brake pedal. Interestingly, if you get an M4, which is either a manual or a DCT, if you get the DCT version, you just get the tiny manual brake pedal. Here's what the door card looks like. Again, that chocolate brown extends to the doors as well. Though a shame that the door pocket does not extend the entire width. The door releases kind of look like samurai swords, and same with this silver trim here. And BMW have been using these lock stops since the 80s as well. It's got back seats here, so that must mean one thing: I should attempt to get into the back. Okay, so to get in, I pull on this lever here and then press once on here, which kind of looks like a window switch from the 90s. That's all the way in, and then I simply step in, and that's me sat in the car. Pull this back, press again, and I've actually got lots of room here, though that seat is not set to my driving position. If it was set to my driving position, I would probably have a lot more space. So here's what it's like in the back. You do get 2 air vents here and a 12-volt socket. Interestingly, this has the traditional BMW cold and hot air override. So if the AC is set to hot, you can override that and make it cold here. And that's the fan speed. You do get nets on both the driver and the passenger seat. Here's what the back look like. The windows are massive. You get some lighting in the back as well. The roof, or the ceiling I should say, does cut off here a bit. Again, the Harman Kardon speakers extend to the back as well. That there is the seatbelt butler, which I'll get back to later. Unfortunately, this is a strict 2-seat. There is no seat in the center. You just get this very random tray. And of course, being a rear-wheel drive car, the transmission tunnel is massive. You can get X-Drive versions of this car if you prefer. I forgot to mention there is a little coat hook here, which looks like this, and it tucks away when not in use. Nice Napa leather here, and you get Isofix in the back as well, so all you have to do is just flip them open, and there you go. Here is your center armrest with a ski hatch here, and if I press this button here, half a cup holder, there we go, 2 cup holders in the back. And one last thing, headroom is just about passable, though if you are a 6-footer, your head will be touching the roof line. Now coming inside, there's the seatbelt butler. So this is what it looks like. Of course, in a coupe, the B pillar is far back, so you get this mechanical arm giving you your seatbelt, so you don't have to reach all the way back. Some car manufacturers tend to have a loop here, like in a Lexus RC, and if I open the door, it goes away, close it, it repeats the procedure. Though, the disadvantage of this particular system is it's only held by this little kink here, so I can literally just get it off here like that. The butler in the Mercedes, I think, is a much better system, as it's an entire loop that holds on to it. And here is my point of view. So first things first, let me get the seat into my driving position. Steering wheel is too far forwards. Annoyingly, the steering wheel is manual, but at least it adjusts for rake and reach. So here is my point of view. Again, it looks exactly like a 3 Series, though thanks to the seats it's easier to sit deeper in. Here are your nice round dials. They look very reminiscent of the dials from the E39 and the E46. Again, pedals are large floor mounted, as they should be. You get a little bottle holder on the door cards. Here's what the seat looks like. You can also adjust the bolsters, and your thigh support is manual, and over time dust can get collected here. This particular car has the black piano, which I'm not a fan of. I'd rather that to be brushed aluminium. Again, just like any other BMW, the center console is angled towards the driver, so if I straighten the camera, you can see it's pointing ever so slightly to the right. Again, you get cup holders here. This particular car is the ZF 8-speed automatic, which I'd say is industry leading. You still get a handbrake, though it's not really necessary in an automatic. And of course, here's the controller for your infotainment system with the odd shortcut buttons. Again, you got the black piano here. You got your armrest, and lift that up. You get some storage underneath, though that is a very pointless phone cradle. Again, being the M Sport car, the steering wheel is different to the regular car. If this were to be an M4, there would be a cutout in the middle, and you get the M buttons right here. So no matter how much you spec your 435i, you'll always have these 2 blanks here. Again, being an automatic, you get your paddles here. And annoyingly, it has the very annoying indicators that self-center. So even when you're indicating, it will not stay in place. And because this car is an automatic, you can also choose how you want your car to react. So you've got your Eco and your Sport option. Here's what the seats look like. Again, they are the sports seats, so bolsters here. There aren't any bolsters up here, so I'm curious to see what they'll be like when on the move. And as I've mentioned, here is the signature override dial. So if you want your aircon to be hot, you can still turn this dial to make the center ones cold. Here are your radio presets. Here's your HVAC control, which luckily are separate to the infotainment system. On newer BMWs, they completely ditched this section, and you get heated seats, both passenger and driver. Here's your overhead console. Nothing much to see here, just your dome lights, your SOS button, and your switch for the sunroof. Let's turn on the accessories. And to close, you just do the same, but the other way. That's the AC blowing. And of course your sun visors, which have the cover for the mirror, and the light illuminates. And you can also store notes here as well. And here's your iDrive system. So to control this, you use this dial here. BMW pretty much invented the iDrive back in 2001 with the E65 7 Series. Again, you can also have a driver profile if you want. You get some shortcut buttons down here for radio, media, main menu, phone, and sat nav. Interestingly, the car park does not show up on the map. And whilst you can get Apple CarPlay, there is no Android Auto. And here's the CarPlay screen, which is a nice way to get some of your phone apps onto your car's screen. Showing its age, this is not a touchscreen, which later BMWs did end up implementing. And the glove box in this car is very well dampened, and you do get a very generous storage space here. Not only do you get a big glove box, but you also get a secondary one on the driver's side, which still drops gracefully. It's not that dampened, and it's perfect for storing tickets or any other additional information. Also, it's a shame that they did not extend the leather onto the dash, but luckily the plastic in question is very soft. Same with the top of the doors. So that's the exterior and interior done now, so let's see what this car is like to drive. So, seatbelt on, foot on the brake, that was the butler, start, and pull back for drive, and off we go. I'm having to drive with the sunroof open due to how hot it is today. That was the system telling me the car was still on park. From first impressions, despite having so many adjustments, I'm struggling to get comfortable in this car. It feels like this car, the seating arrangement is a bit too high up. Feels like I'm driving a more traditional car than a sports car that this car is sort of trying to be. Annoyingly, it's got the BMW indicators, that's self-center. Oh well, there we go, that's better. And off we go. Being a straight six, this car is very, very smooth to operate. But the steering wheel I just can't get comfortable with. I'm having to stretch quite far for the pedals, but this steering wheel doesn't go further back, so it does feel a bit too close for my liking. And it feels a bit tilted at the top as well. So pickup is very smooth. General visibility is also very good. I also like how the blind spot compressed so you can see even further through the mirrors. So overall, I would say this is the perfect car if you're in your mid-20s and live in a somewhat urban environment. I just wish that BMW reverted to the normal indicators when this car was around. And overall, interior does look very nice. I just wish that they let you have the extended leather here and on here, which you can get in one of its key competitors, the Mercedes C-Class. But overall, it's definitely not a deal breaker. And I'm also glad that BMW didn't put a massive handbrake here like Mazda did with the MX-5. This one doesn't take up too much space, though obviously, as you've seen when I set off, it does sort of catch you off that it doesn't automatically release when you put the car into drive from park. So, onto a roundabout. There we go, indicator stuck on now. What's it like on this roundabout? No body roll at all. That is brilliant. And test out its abilities on undulations. That was a speed bump. Thankfully in this car, the car is lowish, at least compared to the 3 Series on what it's based, but it's not low to the point where I'm worried that the lip is going to catch on the speed bumps. And of course this car is in its comfy setting. There is also an eco mode, which makes the acceleration a little bit more lethargic, keeping the gears high, but Eco mode realistically only works if you're very light on the accelerator. So let's just keep it into comfort for now. Here comes another speed bump. Coped very well. Let's see what the ride is like in sport. Does it really firm up the suspension? I'd say marginally. There's also a Sport Plus in this car, but that turns off stability control. So what's it like on the bumps in Sport Plus mode? Speed bump. Yep, definitely can feel the transition from road to bump. So let's just put that back into comfort for now. One more bump. Yes, for everyday driving it's best to keep it in comfort mode. And this particular car has not got any hold assist, so you have to keep your foot on the brake in stop-start traffic. And on to the city centre. So let's see what this car is like driving through Eastgate. Perfectly capable. I can't really hear the outside much despite the sunroof being wide open due to how hot it is today. Steering wheel is light, but at the same time there is no vagueness to it. And even in drive it still lets you change gears through the paddles. I did not even move it to sport at all. So yep, putting into sport should hold the gears longer in theory. Let's just leave it at drive for now. Not much body roll at all. And really with city driving there's not really much to comment about. Taking a right-hander here. And despite being rush hour, it's not very rush houry today. Steering wheel does feel like it's lost a lot of its texture, but it's tolerable. Here comes the very sharp left-hander into Bruton Way. Okay, and here comes that sharp left. Is there any body roll? Very little body roll. I'd say the chassis is so rigid in this 4 Series, shoulder supports aren't really needed. So if you've got these regular seats in your 4 Series, you don't really need the M4 seats at all, at least with everyday driving. One last thing to check what it's like on the open road. Okay, we're getting onto the dual carriageway now. Road holding in this rear-wheel drive car is definitely very good. But of course, for more road holding, depending on dodgier surfaces, there is an X-Drive version available. Whilst it's nice to have these analog dials, it is a shame that there is no digital readout. With BMW speedos, they only mark their speedos 20, 40, 60, and then have a very faint line for 10, 30, 50 and 70, which are the more important speeds here in Britain. So if I'm on the motorway, I have to sort of align the needle on a very vague line. If this were to be a Jaguar or a Land Rover, the more important speeds would be perfectly labelled. But that being said, here we are on the Brockworth bypass, currently in sport mode, pushing the lever over, car kicks down, and we're still in traffic. But that being said, if I do this, it is more eager to get up and go. Three, two, one, and floor it. And that is a straight 6 for you. Sounds very nice as well. The pickup pace from kick down is very instantaneous in this car, and when you put the car into sport mode, it actually tells you what gear you're in, even though you're not changing the gears yourself. Yep, so there's definitely 8 gears in this ZF 8-speed. As I've mentioned so many times, it's probably the industry-leading torque converter automatic gearbox, and in everyday driving I'd rather have this than a twin clutch system as seen on their M variants. Though if you are an M car owner and would like your car reviewed, feel free to reach out. Flashes. So time to do a U-turn and see what it's like in manual mode. So changing gears now. 3, 2. No pop and bangs if I blip the accelerator. Changing lane. So as I was saying while the camera cut off, shifts are pretty much instantaneous considering it's a torque converter automatic, and yet it still benefits of being very smooth on a day-to-day basis. At 70 the car revs very low at 1800 RPM, and it is an absolute hoot to drive despite only having 2 pedals. And I keep hearing that BMW's manuals are quite notchy. If you are a manual 4 Series owner, I'd like to hear your thoughts on said car. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching me try out this BMW 435i. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you are new, ring the bell to stay up to speed, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers!